Good evening, everyone. Welcome everyone to another episode of BNN. Tonight we're studying the last parami, which is equanimity. And after much debate here at Empty Cloud on who was going to give this talk, Bhante Sudaso was the chosen one.
It's because Ayasoma refused to do it.
And so did Bhante J.
So that leaves me. However, I've managed to extract a promise from Ayasoma that she'll give the talk tomorrow night.
All right. So tomorrow won't be a surprise, or maybe it will think it's impermanent. It might die tonight. So tomorrow, we'll see. There will be a monk, hopefully. Maybe we'll all die tonight, all three of us. Everything is possible. Anyway, but for now, Bhante is alive and well, and will be sharing thoughts on equanimity. So welcome to James, Bradley, Ron. Bradley says, I know Bhante was eager. Priyakant, Kevin, Einat, good to see you. And hello, Carol. Welcome, everyone. Also the people that are hiding behind the scenes, not saying hello in the live chat. Welcome to everyone. So there is a link in the live chat, and you can join us all in chanting the Ratana Sutta. And we will be led by Bhante Sudaso.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Sama sambuddhassa. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bummani vayani vantaleke. Sabeva bhuta sumana bhavantu atopi sakacha sunantu vasitam. Tasmahi bhutani sameta sabe nitam karota manusiya pajaya. Devacharato charanti evalim tasmahi nerakata pamata. Yan kinchivitam idavahuram vasage suvayam ratanam panitam. Nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Kayam viragam amatam panitam yada jagasakyamuni samahito. Natena dhammena samati kinchi idampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Yam buddha seto parivannai suchim samadhimanantarikanyamahu. Samadhina tena samona vijjati dampi dhamme ratanam panitam. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye bhungala athasatam prasata chatari etani yugani honti. Te dakineya sugata sasavaka ete sudinnani mahapalani. Edampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu. Yesu payutta manasa dalhena nikamino gotamasasanamhi. Te patipata matam digaiha lanta
samudani buddhim punjamana Yedampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Yatinda kilo patavim sitosiya chatu vivate biya sampakampiyo Tatupamam samurisam vadami yo ariya sachani avechapasati Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Ye ariya sachani vibhavayanti gambira panyena sudesitani Kinchapi te honti musapamatana te bhavam matamam adiyanti Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Sahava sadasana sampadaya tayasu dhamma jahita bhavanti Sakaya deti vichiki chitancha silabhatam vapiyadati kinchim Chatuhapaye hichavipamuto chachabhitanani abhambokatum Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Kinchapi sokam mam karoti papakam kayena vacha udacheta savam Ahambo soda sapati chadaya babbata ditapada sabutam Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Vanapagumbe yata pusita gegem hanamase patamasmin gimbe Tatupamam dhammavaram adesai nibbanagamim paramam vidaya Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Varo varanyo varado varaharo anuttaro dhammavaram adesai Idampi buddhe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Kinam puranam navam nati sambhavam virata cita yatike bhavasmim Tetina bija virulhinchandani banti dhira yatayam paripo Idampi sanghe ratanam panitam etena sachena suvati hotu Yani dabhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vahantaleke Tathagatam devamanusapujitam Buddham namasama suvati hotu Yani dabhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vahantaleke Tathagatam devamanusapujitam Dhammam namassama suvati hotu Yani dabhutani samagatani Bhummani vayani vahantaleke Tathagatam devamanusapujitam Sangham namassama suvati hotu Etena sacha vajjena dukkha upasamentu te Etena sacha vajjena bhaya upasamentu te Etena sacha vajjena roga upasamentu te
And you can get into meditation posture. If you usually sit in the no lotus position, I recommend sitting in the quarter lotus position. If you usually sit in the quarter lotus position, I recommend sitting in the half lotus position. And if you normally sit in the half lotus position, I recommend sitting in the full lotus position. So being willing to push yourself a little bit. This is how we develop our sitting posture, is by pushing ourselves just a little bit beyond what we're comfortable with. Not too far beyond, just a little bit beyond. And taking some time to rock side to side a little bit, back and forward a little bit so that we're settled very evenly on the sitting bones without any pressure on the thighs or feet. And take a few long, slow, deep breaths. With each breath, letting the body and mind relax. And bringing attention inside the body. Clearly feeling the body sitting here. Clearly feeling this mass of physical sensations constantly appearing and disappearing, shifting and changing. So watching closely the coming and going of the body in each moment, the appearance and disappearance of the body in each moment, the manifesting and vanishing of the body in each moment. Not seeking any particular experience, not rejecting any particular experience. Just watching closely as each moment appears and disappears. Watching closely as the river of time flows unceasingly through the mind. Forget the past, forget the future. Just closely watch moments of bodily experience slipping through the mind, like grains of sand slipping between our fingers. Without reacting, just closely observing with serenity and clarity. Focus intently on your body, trying to feel each moment as intensely and clearly as possible. A relaxed, peaceful intensity. letting body and mind be completely still.
right. Thank you, Bhante, for guiding us in meditation. And welcome to a few more friends. Gabriella, Lilia, Ethan, Melinda. Oh, Melinda, you're so sweet. Tita and Marielle. Right. And I'll pass. Oh, and Sarah. Welcome. And Connie Corbett, Mark, and Rich. Yeah, welcome all. All right. So we can proceed with the words of Dhamma. I invite Bhante to share some words this evening.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. So we're coming to the end of our series on the 10 parami, or the 10 perfections. And the final of the 10 is upekkhā. So upekkhā is commonly translated as equanimity, which is a pretty good translation. But I think it's worth understanding this word a little bit more clearly, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what we mean by upekkhā, what this word refers to. So the word upekkhā is formed of two parts: upa, which means close, and ikkha, which means to look or to see. So upekkhā literally means to look closely. So upekkhā does not mean indifference. It does not mean apathy. It doesn't indicate not caring. It doesn't indicate not knowing. It indicates looking very closely at exactly what's going on. And in that close knowing, that close seeing, that precise awareness of what's going on, we do not allow the mind to be disturbed. We do not allow the mind to fall into desire or aversion. So it's quite interesting. The quality of upekkhā, when the Buddha speaks about it in the context of the 4 Brahmaviharas. So for the first 3 Brahmaviharas, he talks about wishing for others to be happy and to be free of suffering and to enjoy what they've acquired. And for equanimity, what he says is to reflect. All beings are the owners of their karma. All beings are produced by their karma. All beings return to their karma. All beings are bound to their karma. Whatever karma someone creates, they will experience its consequences. So this is the reflection that the Buddha gives for cultivating equanimity, for cultivating upekkhā. It's reflecting on causality. It's reflecting on cause and effect. It's reflecting on how the choices we make bring about results. So once again, this is not turning a blind eye to things. So this is not head in the sand. It's not apathy or ignorance, but rather it's looking closely. What's actually going on? What are the experiences that I'm having right now? What experience is arising right now? And it's recognizing that this experience is not arising randomly or chaotically, but it's arising as the result of a causal process. So the causes for what we're experiencing right now might have been set in place a moment ago, or might have been set in place a lifetime ago. It might have been set in place an eon ago. We don't know. What we know is that what we are facing in this moment is the natural result of a pre-existing cause. And we also know that in this moment, if we create wholesome causes, then that will produce wholesome results at some point in the future. That will produce positive results at some point in the future. So with that recognition then, if painful experiences are arising right now, first, we clearly see it, we closely examine it, we feel it intensely and precisely. So not turning away from it. What's going on? Is it a painful feeling in the body? Is it a painful feeling in the mind? Is it an unpleasant emotion? Is it unpleasant news? Lots of unpleasant news these days. What's going on? Well, we look closely at it. We don't turn away. We don't turn a blind eye. We don't ignore it. We don't pretend that nothing's wrong. We don't pretend that nothing's going on. We start by looking closely. So upekkhā, look closely. Upekkhā, look closely. And as we look closely, we recognize, once again, this is the unfolding of a causal process. This is a natural playing out of cause and effect. So then there's no reason to be disturbed by the sensation that's arising. There's no reason to be disturbed by the physical discomfort or the mental discomfort or the emotional discomfort, because we know there's a reason for this. And we know if we make choices which are wholesome, which are in line with Dhamma, then in the future we will experience less discomfort, less pain, less disturbance, until eventually we experience none at all. Eventually we understand clearly enough that these things have no power over us. So equanimity then is the serenity of mind that arises through looking closely at our experience and recognizing the causal nature of everything that's happening. Once again, this is not indifference. It's not even close. It's the calm, cool knowing that everything which is happening for a reason, and that we can create the causes for different things to happen in the future. It's the clear knowing that we are in control of our lives. It doesn't always feel that way, because there's a lot of consequences coming up from past choices, past lives even. But we can see that the choices that we make in this moment, in this life, have lasting results, lasting consequences. So then also we're not taken in by the pleasant things that appear, the pleasant sensations of body and mind. We recognize that those too are the natural product of past causes. We look closely at them and we see that they are impermanent, like everything else. They're transient, they're insubstantial, just like everything else. We recognize that if we choose to cling to those pleasant experiences, if we get obsessed with them or attached to them, then that will cause us more discomfort. We also recognize that the pleasant experiences that are arising because of a limited stockpile of past good karma, which means those pleasant experiences will run out sooner or later if we do not continually create more good karma. So then once again, what arises is a non-disturbance of mind. We don't rush in to get attached to and obsessed with the pleasant things that appear, because we know that they're impermanent, they're transient, they're unreliable. And we also know that they have a limited lifespan. And we don't necessarily know how long it's going to last. It might last 1 second, it might last a year, It might last a lifetime. We don't know. But we know that its time is limited. So we look closely. We look closely at our experience, moment by moment. And the more closely we look at our experience, the more clear it becomes that absolutely everything that arises also ceases. And when we see that whatever arises also ceases, then we are not disturbed by the unpleasant things that arise. We are not obsessed with the pleasant things that arise, and we are not confused by the neutral things that arise. We know this is just a temporary experience arising and ceasing. But once again, the Buddha emphasized that this upekkhā, this close looking, is accompanied by an awareness of causality, an awareness of right and wrong. So again, the Buddha said, whatever karma one does, whether good or evil, of that one will be the heir. So equanimity also doesn't mean that we don't care what choices we make. Rather, it means that we become intensely aware of how critically important it is to only do what is wholesome, to only do what is morally right, to only do what is virtuous. So to never intentionally harm any living being, to never intentionally speak harshly, to never do anything harmful or destructive to any living being. Because if we do, it will come back to us. We will receive it. We will be on the receiving end. One day you're the one swinging the stick, the next day you're the one getting hit with the stick. So we know not to swing that stick. Nope, nope, nope. Wouldn't even cross our mind as a reasonable course of action. And we know that if we offer a helping hand to another, then we will be helped. So we do everything we can to help others. We don't pass up an opportunity to help others. We take every chance we can get to be of benefit to others. And all of this is done with a serene, peaceful mind. A serene, peaceful mind which is not affected by the unpleasant things that arise because we know they're temporary. And we know that they are reminders to us. They are reminders not to create the causes that lead to such experiences. And we're not disturbed by the pleasant things that arise. We don't get wrapped up and obsessed with them because we know that they're temporary. We know that they don't last. And they are reminders. They are reminders that we need to watch what we're doing, to make sure that we're doing what is good, that we're doing what is right, to make sure that we're bringing benefit to the world, to others as well as ourselves. Because it's only through benefiting others that we can be certain that we will continue to have pleasant experiences. So upekkhā, again, when we talk about equanimity, sometimes people think that equanimity means this monk sitting solitarily in the forest or in the mountains, just nothing bothers me, everything is fine. That's not equanimity. That's not equanimity. Equanimity is clearly knowing what comes and goes in each moment and recognizing that each moment is an opportunity to do what is good. Each moment is an opportunity to avoid doing what's evil. Each moment is an opportunity to cultivate the wisdom which knows the difference, the wisdom which can tell right from wrong. So once again, with equanimity, one is not disturbed by anything that arises because one recognizes its causal nature. But one also clearly recognizes the importance of carefully choosing what one does, what one says, how one acts, how one behaves. So if we're developing upekkhā, if we're developing equanimity in the way the Buddha spoke about, then it naturally is accompanied by conscience. It is naturally accompanied by consideration. It is naturally accompanied by a powerful, compassionate impulse to do as much good as we possibly can in each moment. And once again, it is a clear, precise knowing, closely looking at every moment of experience. It's not blanking out. It's not going dull. It's not zoning out. It's quite the opposite. It's an intense knowing of each experience and recognizing that each experience fits perfectly into the interlocking mechanism of samsara. And from that knowing, we always choose to do what is compassionate. We always choose to do what is good. We always choose to do what is right. So I think that's all I have to say about equanimity. So at this time, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and type them in and I'll answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. There are quite a few questions already. So let's start with Gabriella, who's asking, when I think of equanimity, I imagine being courageous and steadfast in the face of adversity. But I often see it being used to refer to release the 8 worldly concerns. Can you tell us how they relate to one another, Bhante?
Well, I think I addressed that fairly well in the talk. But yeah, when you experience praise, then you recognize this praise is arising as the result of past karma. It is temporary, it is unreliable. If I get attached to it or obsessed with it, that's going to cause me lots of problems. If I allow it to inflate my ego, then that's going to bring me further away from awakening. So one recognizes this is just something which comes and goes. It's not something to get wrapped up in. Same with criticism. When others disparage or criticize us, then we recognize, well, this is happening as the result of past karma. It's something which comes and goes. If there's some valid criticism there, if there's something where someone actually is helping us to understand our defilements so we can get better at working with them, that's great. We learn from that, we take it on. But if someone's just spouting vile words at us, so earlier today, someone posted, actually a few people posted some quite vile comments on my Facebook page. I wasn't bothered. Why would I be bothered? All they're doing is just displaying their own defilements for the world to see. That doesn't bother me. If anything, it brings up compassion. It's like, how sad. How sad that someone can be so lost in their own defilements that they want to display it to the whole world. But why would I be bothered by that? It's their defilements. It's their defilements that they're displaying. It doesn't reflect anything to do with me. So equanimity, though, is recognizing, once again, that this experience of praise or criticism is the result of past karma. And as such, it's not something that we can do anything about, except to choose how we respond to it. If we respond with obsession and conceit to praise, then we're responding unwholesomely. That's generating unwholesome karma. which will lead to unpleasant results. If we respond to disparagement with anger or irritation, then we're creating unwholesome karma, which will lead to more unwholesome results. But if we respond with serenity and wisdom, a clear seeing of what's happening, and an understanding of the underlying causal process, then that's wholesome karma. And that will lead us towards awakening. And the same with the other of the 8 worldly conditions. With each pair, it's the same. Whether it's gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute, it's all the same. We just see it as a causal arising and recognize that we have a choice to make. If we choose to be swept along with it, then we're creating unwholesome karma, which will lead to unpleasant results. But if we see it for what it is, impermanent, impersonal, nothing to do with me or mine, and we see that we have a choice to cultivate a serene, wise, knowing mind, then there's no problem. So that's equanimity. That's upekkhā.
Thank you. Marielle says, I sometimes feel the topic you guys pick is directly related to my life on that day. Good timing. Well, this topic was actually picked by Gabriella, so you can thank her. And Gabriella says, these decisions that were set in place looks chaotic only if you don't look closely what is going on. Any small thing people do makes a difference, however small it may seem. Turning away is cowardly. Looking reality in the face and seeing it for what it is, that takes a lot of courage, not apathy or indifference.
Yeah, I agree.
And she has a question. While I am brave and steadfast, I lack the pure serenity of mind I wish I had, since my hyper-awareness makes me interpret information in a deluded way, and I usually act from incomplete information. How do we reduce impulses and underlying tendencies that cause acting rashly or from a place of unease and not peace, especially when information is incomplete?
Well, first off, be gentle with yourself. Recognize that most of the time our information is incomplete, which means most of the time we're just doing the best we can. And the best we can will sometimes make messes. So you want to keep coming back to your intentions. So 1, the intention to do what is good, to do what brings the least harm and the most benefit to everyone involved. That's the critical first intention. The second is the intention to clearly understand the consequences of your choices. This is very important, and this doesn't get emphasized enough when talking about karma, when talking about intention. So if one has good intention, the intention to do good things and wholesome things, but one does not have the intention to understand the consequences of one's choices, that's mixed karma. You have the good karma of wanting to do beneficial things, mixed with the bad karma of negligence, the bad karma of not trying to understand what effect your choices are actually having. That's not so good. So there's these 2 aspects. If you really want to be pure in your actions, if you really want to cultivate wholesome actions, there's 2 aspects to this. The intention to do what's beneficial to everyone involved, and the intention to clearly know the actual consequences of your choices. Then you'll be okay. You'll still make mistakes along the way, but you will progress towards the right path. You will progress towards a better understanding of how to behave most skillfully, how to do what's right under any circumstance. That said, if you feel like a problem for you is acting impulsively, then one thing you can do is take 1 breath before you do anything or say anything. Take 1 breath. So never acting in an immediate reactive way, but take a breath first. And you might find that that space of 1 breath is enough to give you a bit more clarity. And in that clarity, you might find self-restraint. In that clarity, you might find another way to act that's more beneficial and less harmful. Okay?
And Bradley says, so on one hand, we do good deeds, but at the same time, we remain equanimous about the results of those deeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, second question, is it accurate to say that this moves our focus from the results I will receive, but rather what leads to a reduction of suffering for others and ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that is a natural consequence of reflecting in this way, is that one's self-centeredness diminishes a bit. Yeah, when you recognize that what goes around comes around, then you treat every person you encounter with the utmost carefulness, the utmost kindness, the utmost consideration, because you know that next time it's going to be you on the other end. Okay?
And Gita says, Bhante, is this then Vipassana meditation examining Dhamma and seeing cause and effect / dependent origination and the 12 links? By developing this, we're not moved by extremes like pleasant and unpleasant experiences.
I think there's layers to equanimity, layers to upekkhā. So I'd say at the surface level, like the entry level equanimity, is just not to be disturbed by the pleasure and pain that appears. To be aware but not disturbed. That's the surface level of equanimity. So that's, for example, equanimity as a Brahmavihara. It's a surface level equanimity. So not to be disturbed by pleasure and pain, and to clearly know what's appearing. But this deeper level of incorporating this awareness of causality, yeah, that makes it a Vipassana practice. That makes it an insight practice, an investigation of Dhamma practice. And that's when it becomes not just a Brahmavihara, but it becomes a Bojjhanga. It becomes a factor of enlightenment, a factor of awakening. Or in this case, that's when it becomes a parami, a perfection of the heart that leads towards Buddhahood. Okay?
Lots of appreciation. Karen says, I enjoyed your focus on planting the right causes for the future. Yeah, very good. And Kevin is encouraging people to practice dana. You're so thoughtful and caring, Kevin. So if you're able, you can visit the BI site to help support the monastery in these talks. If you'd like to do so, you can go on buddhistinsights.com/donate. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And Bradley says, oh, he's quoting the suttas. We always love that. Rahula, meditate like the earth, like water, like fire, wind and space. For when you meditate like this, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Monica, ciao. Good to see you. So Monica's asking, how to deal with a situation where you realize you have harmed, but not intentionally?
Harmed?
Probably harmed, yes.
Yeah. Well, in that case, make the determination. In the future, I will better understand the potential consequences of my choices so that I will not unintentionally cause harm again. So in this case, reflect. I did not intentionally cause harm, but because of my negligence, harm still happened. So in the future, I will cultivate a clearer circumstantial understanding of the consequences of what I'm doing. I will cultivate a better understanding of all the circumstances and affecting surrounding conditions so that I won't accidentally cause harm again. Okay? This is a really important point. And again, I don't know why it doesn't get emphasized very often. We really have to be careful that we do not cultivate the karma of negligence, or else we will be the ones who are neglected. We will be the ones who keep getting accidentally hurt by other people. We really don't want that, just as nobody else wants that. So it's very important to then cultivate that intention, that motivation. I will always try to understand clearly all the consequences of my actions so that I can make the least harmful and most beneficial choices. And try to live through that intention.
Great, thank you, Bante. And Bradley is asking, is expelling rats from a burrow in my backyard unwholesome?
That's a little complicated. Actually, I have to say my first thought is, yeah, it is a little unwholesome. Poor little buddies are just trying to find a nice place to live, and you're dragging them out. That's not so great. Also, they're living in your shed. Who cares? I mean, if they're inside your house, that's a different story, but it's your shed. Who cares? I know your neighbors care, but that's your neighbors. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd probably just let them live there. I mean, poor little buddies. I might even bring them snacks.
Okay, that's a little bit too much.
But yeah, if you want to drag them out, what you might do is get some live capture traps and capture them, and then take them and release them out in the wilderness somewhere far away. Poor little buddies. Be really gentle with them, though. They have a really hard life. It's really difficult for them to find enough to eat. It's really difficult for them to get by. These weird two-legged giants are always trying to kill them or poison them or trap them or hunt them. They have a really difficult life. Be kind to them. But if you really do have to relocate them, again, do it as gently as possible. Take them somewhere far away from these scary two-legged giants and set them free with some snacks.
When you said feeding them, said, okay, Bante's not invited. Hello. He says, I would love to find them a nice place to live, just elsewhere.
Yeah, that's okay. So get some live capture traps. Capture the rats and take them somewhere far away. Drop them off in a nice wilderness area with some snacks and wish well for them.
Oh, Bradley says, I will. I'm not trying to hurt them physically in any way. Oh, so sweet.
In fact, you mentioned the other day that your neighbor wants to poison them. So actually relocating the rats might be the best thing for their safety. So that then your neighbors don't assassinate them.
Great. And James says, in the Brahmi Hat of Equanimity, quote, they consider this and understand it thus. This equanimity is conditioned and volitionally produced, but whatever is conditioned is anicca and ceasing, insight.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. I thought it was a question, but it was not.
Is that from the Attika Nagara Sutta?
Maybe Manjima Nikaya 52?
Yeah, Attika Nagara Sutta. If that's the one I'm thinking of, that's where it's actually a sutta by Venerable Ananda. And it describes how one can use the 4 Brahma Viharas, or the first 4 jhanas, or the first 3 formless attainments, so any one of those 11 states of mind, as a starting point for cultivating anicca sanya, the recognition of impermanence, which then leads to either non-returner or arhat. So in that case, one immerses one's mind fully in equanimity, and then recognizes that the equanimity is, as you mentioned in that quote, conditional and impermanent. And from that, one recognizes that all things are conditional and impermanent, and the mind is able to cultivate disenchantment. The mind is able to attain disenchantment towards all phenomena, which is the immediate precondition for becoming a non-returner.
Melinda's asking, I let a spider live in my SUV. So how can I have equanimity towards cockroaches?
Well, I've never had to live with cockroaches, so I understand people really don't like them, but I don't have personal experience, so I can't really comment. Again, try to find non-lethal ways to remove them if they're a problem. Yeah. Really try to avoid killing things. It's really not the kind of karma that you want.
Right. Well, that was the last question. Unless another one appears magically in the live chat.
Perhaps not this evening.
Perhaps we'll have an early night this evening.
That's okay. Okay.
Oh, Gabriela says, sometimes there's a kind of question as to whether another being harms you. How do we cultivate equanimity to those who wish to harm us?
So the equanimity that you're cultivating is towards your own experience. So regarding others who wish to harm you, what I recommend actually is recollecting that that person is overwhelmed by delusions and defilements, which is why they want to harm you, because they're overwhelmed with delusions and defilements. And that all those delusions and defilements are causing that person a tremendous amount of dukkha. So then what starts to arise is compassion. It's like, oh, this poor person, they're so lost in their delusions and defilements that they're even trying to hurt somebody else. That's so sad. They must be suffering so much. Poor person. I hope they become free of that dukkha. I hope that they're freed from that misery and torment of living with such strong delusions and defilements. So in that way, you can start to cultivate compassion towards a person. Equanimity would be towards your own experience. It's recognizing the experience that you're having is causally produced. It's recognizing that how you react to this experience is a choice that you make, which also creates karma. That if you react with anger, then that's creating bad karma. If you react with hatred, that's causing bad karma. If you react with spacing out, well, that's causing bad karma. So it's recognizing that we have a choice. And if we choose to react with negative states of mind, then we're making choices which will simply create more unpleasant conditions for us in the future. Whereas if we respond with positive states of mind, then that will create positive karma, which leads to positive experiences in the future. Okay.
Great. Gabriela says, I have no desire to make bad karma, but there's loads of ways to do that.
Oh yes, every moment. All it takes to create bad karma is a mind.
And James says, Bante, if you come to Florida if you want the cockroach experience.
I'll skip. Yeah, I'm not. I'll just say that's not on my list of things I want to do. It's not on my bucket list. Either Florida or the cockroaches, just to be clear on that.
Nah, we'll come to Florida sooner or later. Well, probably later than sooner just because of the pandemic, but eventually. Okay. You guys are so great because I'm not reading a lot of the comments on the animal treatments, but you're all doing pretty great. with your compassion towards small beings. Benigna says, I don't kill the roaches, which I seldom see, but I run and scream. Well, eventually, from non-harming, we'll go to non-harming with equanimity. All right. Well, I think that's all for this evening. Thank you so much, Bhante, for sharing the Dhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bhante will be sharing the Dhamma again in less than 12 hours with Sutta study. So the third part of the Sutta we're currently studying. And then tomorrow evening, we'll start the first series of the Noble Eightfold Path.
And Ayasoma will be giving the talk tomorrow night.
Looks like that will, in fact, be me. Also, Bhante J says yes. And if you have any questions in life, you are welcome to bring them to Friday night's monk chat, where you won't have one nor two, but 3 monks you can ask questions to. Very good opportunity.
You may even get 3 different answers to one question.
But the J says yes again. Or maybe not. You know, maybe we only have one. We'll see. You will only find out. Yeah, we only have none. You'll only find out by tuning in on BNN. All right. Well, thank you so much for practicing the Dharma and becoming better people together. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a great